Beyond conventional arms, every major power raced to develop secret experimental weapons. Germany's V-2 rocket became the world's first long-range ballistic missile ever used in war. It struck distant cities with almost no warning, arriving faster than the speed of sound. Slave laborers under brutal conditions built many of these rockets in underground factories. Germany also developed the world's first operational jet-powered fighter aircraft. Its incredible speed briefly gave German pilots an advantage over conventional Allied fighters. Fuel shortages and production delays limited how many of these advanced jets ever flew. Britain and America raced to develop radar, transforming how enemy aircraft were detected. Radar gave defenders crucial early warning of incoming bomber raids from far offshore. Codebreakers worked in complete secrecy, cracking encrypted enemy military communications. Breaking these codes provided intelligence that shaped major military decisions throughout the war. The United States launched a massive secret program to develop an entirely new kind of weapon. Thousands of scientists and workers labored without knowing the program's true final purpose. In 1945, the world's first atomic bomb was tested in a remote desert location. Its destructive power dwarfed anything ever unleashed on a battlefield before. Atomic bombs were dropped on 2 Japanese cities, forcing Japan's surrender soon after. That single weapon instantly and permanently transformed the nature of global warfare. Germany also experimented with early guided missiles designed to strike distant targets precisely. These wartime programs quietly laid the technological foundation for the entire Cold War arms race. From rifles to rockets, World War II's weapons reshaped warfare for generations that followed. Submachine guns gave soldiers a way to fire rapidly at close range without a heavy rifle. Germany's MP-40 became instantly recognizable for its folding metal stock and curved magazine. Its compact size made it ideal for tank crews and paratroopers needing a lighter weapon. The Soviet Union countered with the PPSH-41, cheap enough to mass-produce by the millions. Its large drum magazine held far more ammunition than most rifles could carry. Soviet soldiers sometimes carried entire units armed only with these rapid-firing weapons. America issued the Thompson submachine gun, already famous from pre-war gangster headlines. Its heavy weight and iconic drum magazine made it instantly recognizable on any battlefield. Britain developed the Sten gun, a stripped-down design built for speed and low cost. Some Sten guns cost only a fraction of what a standard rifle required to manufacture. Resistance fighters across occupied Europe prized the Sten for how easily it could be hidden. Submachine guns excelled in the tight confines of urban and trench warfare. A soldier clearing a room valued rapid fire far more than long-range accuracy. Their short range made them far less effective in open countryside combat. Officers and specialized troops were often the first to receive these newer weapons. Factories raced to simplify designs further as the war demanded ever faster production. Stamped sheet metal parts replaced expensive machined components on later wartime models. That shift in manufacturing helped arm millions of soldiers in record time. Submachine guns proved so effective that most post-war armies kept variants in service. A weapon born from urban combat necessity reshaped infantry tactics for decades to come. Machine guns provided the sustained firepower that infantry rifles simply could not match. Germany's MG-42 earned a fearsome nickname for its incredibly high rate of fire. Soldiers described its distinctive sound as more like tearing cloth than individual gunshots. That rapid fire let a single gunner suppress an entire advancing enemy formation. America relied on the Browning M1919. A reliable design dating back decades earlier. Its slower, steadier rate of fire made barrel changes less frequent during combat. The Soviet Union fielded the DP-27, easily identified by its distinctive round drum magazine. That drum sat directly above the barrel, giving the weapon an unusual silhouette. Machine gun crews typically worked in teams, one firing while another fed ammunition. Positioning a machine gun correctly could control an entire section of the battlefield. Defenders often built entire fortified positions specifically to protect their machine gun nests. Attacking those nests directly often resulted in devastating casualties for advancing infantry. Barrels overheated quickly under sustained fire, forcing crews to swap them regularly. A well-drilled crew could change a glowing hot barrel in only a few seconds. Machine guns mounted on vehicles gave tanks and trucks added defensive firepower. Anti-aircraft variants used multiple linked machine guns to fill the sky with fire. Their sheer weight meant machine guns were rarely carried far without a dedicated crew. Lighter squad-level machine guns let smaller infantry units carry their own suppressive fire. This layered system of light and heavy guns shaped infantry tactics throughout the war. The machine gun's dominance on the battlefield would only grow in the decades after. Pistols served as backup weapons, rarely a soldier's primary tool in serious combat. Germany's Luger P-08 became one of the most recognizable handguns of the entire war. Its unusual toggle lock action gave the pistol a distinctive silhouette and mechanism. Officers often carried the Luger as much for status as for practical combat use. Germany later introduced the simpler, cheaper Walther P-38 to speed up production. America's standard sidearm, the Colt 1911, had already served since the previous World War. Its heavy-caliber round was designed to stop an attacker with a single, well-placed shot. The Soviet Union issued the Tokarev TT-33, valued for its simplicity and reliability. Pistols were common among officers, tank crews, and pilots needing a compact weapon. A downed pilot behind enemy lines often had only a pistol for personal defense. Resistance fighters and spies favored pistols for their ability to be easily concealed. Captured enemy pistols were frequently kept and carried as prized personal trophies. Some soldiers modified pistols with holsters designed for faster emergency access. Pistol ammunition was lighter to carry than rifle rounds, if far less powerful. In close-quarters combat, a pistol could be drawn faster than a slung rifle. Naval officers often carried pistols as their standard sidearm aboard ship. Despite limited stopping power, pistols remained a comforting last line of defense. Production of pistols was dwarfed by the millions of rifles manufactured during the war. Many wartime pistol designs remained in military and police service decades after 1945. The pistol's role stayed modest, but its presence on every battlefield never disappeared. Grenades let soldiers deliver an explosive blast without exposing themselves to direct fire. Germany's Stielhandgranate, nicknamed the potato masher, featured a long wooden throwing handle. That handle gave soldiers extra leverage, allowing for a much longer throwing distance. Britain's Mills bomb used a classic oval shape with a segmented, grooved surface. Soldiers believed the grooves helped the grenade fragment more effectively, though this was largely myth. Pulling the pin released a spring-loaded lever, starting a short-timed fuse. Throwing a grenade too early or too late could prove fatal to the thrower. Grenades cleared enemy positions from bunkers, buildings, and dug-in foxholes alike. Soldiers clearing a room often threw a grenade in before ever stepping inside. Satchel charges packed far more explosive power for demolishing bridges and fortified bunkers. Combat engineers specialized in placing these larger charges under intense enemy fire. Anti-tank grenades used shaped explosive charges to punch through armored vehicle plating. A soldier had to get dangerously close to a tank for these weapons to work. Rifle grenades let infantry launch explosives farther than a hand throw ever could. A special attachment on the rifle's muzzle propelled the grenade using a blank cartridge. Landmines turned entire stretches of ground into hidden, indiscriminate hazards. Engineers laid minefields to slow enemy advances across open or contested terrain. Clearing a minefield safely required painstaking, nerve-wracking work under constant danger. Explosive demolition charges brought down bridges, railways, and fortified enemy positions. From a simple hand-thrown bomb to strategic demolition, explosives shaped nearly every battle. As tanks grew more common, infantry desperately needed a way to fight back against them. Germany's Panzerfaust offered a cheap, single-use launcher any soldier could carry and fire. Its shaped explosive charge could punch through thick armor at extremely close range. That short, effective range meant soldiers had to let tanks come dangerously close first. America issued the bazooka, a reusable rocket launcher fired from the shoulder. Its rocket propelled a shaped charge warhead capable of piercing armored vehicle plating. Britain developed the PIAT, an unusual spring-launched weapon, instead of a rocket system. Loading the PIAT required cocking a powerful spring, a physically demanding task under fire. Anti-tank rifles fired oversized rounds meant to pierce early war tank armor. As tank armor thickened throughout the war, these rifles quickly became largely obsolete. Soldiers armed with anti-tank weapons often worked in small, mobile hunting teams. Ambushing a tank from a hidden position offered better odds than open confrontation. Knocking out just the lead tank could stall an entire advancing armored column. Anti-tank guns towed by vehicles offered longer range than any handheld weapon. Crews camouflaged these guns carefully, waiting patiently for a clear shot at passing armor. A single, well-placed anti-tank round could disable even the heaviest enemy tank. Tank crews grew to fear these hidden, well-camouflaged infantry weapons throughout the war. Combined arms tactics evolved specifically to protect tanks from these infantry threats. By war's end, shaped charge weapons had transformed how infantry countered armored vehicles. The vulnerable tank of early the war became a far more cautiously deployed weapon by 1945. Tanks evolved dramatically during World War II, from thin-skinned scouts to heavy armored giants. Germany's early panzer tanks proved fast and effective during the war's opening campaigns. The Soviet Union's T-34 combined thick, sloped armor with a powerful main gun. That sloped design deflected incoming shells far more effectively than flat armor plating. German engineers were reportedly stunned when they first encountered the T-34 in combat. America's Sherman tank prioritized reliability and mass production over raw armored protection. Thousands of Shermans rolled off assembly lines, replacing losses faster than enemies could inflict them. Germany's Tiger tank carried thick armor and a devastatingly powerful main gun. Its intimidating reputation sometimes slowed enemy advances before a single shot was fired. The Tiger's complexity and cost meant relatively few were ever actually built. Tank crews worked in cramped, hot conditions, often for many hours at a stretch. A direct hit could turn a tank's interior into a fatal trap within seconds. Tank commanders needed to balance protecting their crew against completing dangerous objectives. Massed tank formations could break through enemy lines that infantry alone could never crack. Combined with infantry and air support, tanks became the backbone of major offensives. Maintenance crews worked constantly to keep these complex machines running in the field. A single mechanical failure could strand an otherwise powerful tank deep in enemy territory. Tank design continued evolving rapidly as each side raced to counter the other's advances. By the war's end, tanks had proven themselves as the dominant weapon of land warfare. The armored duels of World War II shaped tank design for generations afterward. Artillery caused more battlefield casualties throughout the war than almost any other weapon type. Massed artillery barrages could pound enemy positions for hours before an infantry assault. Soldiers on the receiving end described the experience as utterly terrifying and disorienting. Germany's 88mm gun proved devastatingly effective against tanks, aircraft, and infantry alike. Originally designed as an anti-aircraft weapon, it found brutal new purpose against ground targets. Howitzers lobbed shells in a high arc, striking targets hidden behind hills or walls. Forward observers radioed corrections back to distant artillery crews, refining each following shot. A well-coordinated barrage could devastate an entrenched position without infantry ever advancing. Mobile artillery mounted on vehicles could reposition quickly to avoid counter-battery fire. Counter-battery fire targeted enemy artillery positions before they could fire another barrage. Rocket artillery systems fired dozens of rockets in rapid, overlapping succession. The Soviet Union's Katyusha rocket launchers earned a chilling nickname from terrified enemy troops. Their distinctive launching sound became instantly recognizable across entire battlefields. Coastal artillery defended harbors and beaches with massive, heavily fortified gun emplacements. Naval bombardment brought battleship-sized guns to bear directly on coastal defenses. Artillery crews required precise coordination between spotters, gunners, and ammunition handlers. A single miscalculation in range or angle could send a shell dangerously off target. Artillery preparation before major offensives sometimes lasted for days without pause. The sheer scale of ammunition consumption strained supply lines throughout the entire war. Artillery remained, as it had for centuries, the true king of the battlefield. Fighter aircraft carried machine guns and cannons designed for high-speed aerial combat. Germany's Messerschmitt fighters combined powerful cannons with rapid-firing machine guns. Cannons fired explosive shells capable of tearing through an enemy aircraft's structure. Britain's Spitfire relied on a battery of machine guns concentrated in its wings. Concentrated fire from multiple guns increased the odds of striking a fast-moving target. American fighters like the P-51 Mustang combined long range with devastating firepower. Bombers carried massive payloads of explosive and incendiary bombs deep into enemy territory. Bomb bay doors opened at precise moments, releasing ordnance toward targets far below. Bomber crews depended on tight formations and defensive gunners to survive enemy fighters. Waist gunners and tail gunners protected bombers from fighters attacking their vulnerable rear. Torpedo bombers skimmed low over water, releasing torpedoes aimed directly at enemy ships. Dive bombers plunged steeply toward targets, releasing bombs at devastatingly close range. That steep dive gave pilots improved accuracy at the cost of extreme personal risk. Anti-aircraft guns on the ground filled the sky with explosive shells and shrapnel. Pilots described flying through flak as one of the most terrifying parts of any mission. Rockets fired from aircraft added devastating new firepower against ground and naval targets. Aircraft armament evolved rapidly as engineers raced to outpace enemy fighter designs. Jet-powered aircraft emerged late in the war, hinting at combat's rapidly approaching future. Their incredible speed made them extraordinarily difficult for older propeller fighters to intercept. Aerial combat during the war transformed warfare in ways that extended far beyond 1945. Naval warfare relied on a mix of massive guns, torpedoes, and increasingly capable aircraft. Battleships carried enormous main guns capable of firing shells over many miles. A single broadside from a battleship could devastate an enemy vessel in moments. Aircraft carriers gradually proved more valuable than battleships as the war progressed. Carrier-based aircraft could strike enemy ships from far beyond any battleship's gun range. Submarines used torpedoes to strike enemy shipping from beneath the ocean's surface. Germany's U-boats devastated Allied supply convoys crossing the dangerous North Atlantic. Convoys traveled together, escorted by destroyers hunting for hidden submarine threats. Sonar allowed escort ships to detect submarines lurking silently beneath the waves. Depth charges exploded underwater, designed to crush a submarine's hull with pressure. Torpedoes themselves grew increasingly sophisticated, some eventually guided toward their targets. Destroyers used speed and agility to protect larger, more valuable ships from attack. Naval mines floated silently in shipping lanes, waiting for an unsuspecting vessel to pass. Clearing mined waters required slow, methodical, and extremely dangerous minesweeping operations. Kamikaze attacks late in the war saw aircraft deliberately crashed into enemy ships. That desperate tactic caused significant damage and casualties among Allied naval forces. Anti-aircraft guns aboard ships tried to fill the sky against incoming enemy planes. Naval battles increasingly played out between aircraft launched from carriers far apart. Fleets sometimes never came within sight of each other throughout an entire engagement. By war's end, naval combat had shifted decisively from big guns to naval air power. Flamethrowers projected burning fuel toward enemy positions, clearing bunkers and fortified structures. Their terrifying effect often forced defenders to abandon a position without further resistance. Operators carried heavy fuel tanks strapped directly to their backs during an assault. That weight and vulnerability made flamethrower operators frequent priority targets for enemy fire. Flamethrowers proved especially effective against the fortified bunkers common in Pacific Island fighting. Tank-mounted flamethrowers combined armored protection with the weapon's devastating close-range effect. Jungle warfare in the Pacific saw flamethrowers used to clear dense, hidden defensive networks. Caves and tunnels sheltering entrenched defenders proved especially vulnerable to flame attacks. Chemical weapons, banned since the previous World War, saw far more limited use this time. Both sides stockpiled poison gas but largely avoided using it on active battlefields. Fear of retaliation in kind kept most chemical weapons locked away in storage throughout the war. Some chemical agents were still used in isolated incidents away from major public attention. Incendiary weapons like napalm emerged late in the war, designed to burn through structures. Napalm's sticky, clinging fuel made it extraordinarily difficult for victims to extinguish. Firebombing campaigns used incendiary weapons to devastating effect against entire cities. These attacks caused massive urban destruction and tragic loss of civilian life. Smoke shells were used defensively, screening troop movements from observing enemy eyes. White phosphorus burned intensely and could mark targets for following artillery strikes. These weapons blurred a difficult moral line between legitimate tactics and civilian harm. Their use remains one of the most debated aspects of the war's military history. Every major army in World War II still relied on the bolt-action rifle as its standard infantry weapon. Germany issued the Karabiner 98K, a shortened version of a rifle design from the previous war. Soldiers cycled the bolt by hand between each shot, limiting how fast they could fire. The Soviet Union armed millions of soldiers with the Mosin Nagant, first designed back in 1891. Its long bayonet made it just as useful in a close-quarters trench fight as at range. Britain equipped its troops with the Lee Enfield, prized for its unusually fast bolt action. A well-trained British soldier could fire more rounds per minute than most rifle designs allowed. American forces carried the M1 Garand, the first semi-automatic rifle issued to an entire army. Its clip ejected with a distinctive metallic ping once the last round was fired. That sound sometimes betrayed a soldier's empty rifle to a listening enemy nearby. Japan issued the Arisaka rifle, built with a strong bolt action suited to jungle conditions. Snipers on every side fitted scopes to standard rifles for long-range precision shooting. A skilled sniper could hold a single position for days, waiting for one careful shot. Rifle production numbered in the tens of millions across all combatant nations combined. Factories converted entire civilian production lines just to keep pace with battlefield losses. Soldiers were trained to care for their rifle as carefully as any other piece of equipment. A jammed or dirty rifle could mean the difference between life and death in combat. Bayonets remained fixed to rifles for the rare moments combat turned to hand-to-hand fighting. By war's end, semi-automatic designs were already pushing bolt-action rifles toward obsolescence. The rifle that started the war would not be the rifle that ended it.